Welcome to a new edition of the Gerety Talks. My name is Lucy Ongai, and I am the co-founder of the Gerety Awards, the creative award that is redefining creative benchmarks by showing the value of the female vision in advertising. Our guest today is Melinda Poe, CEO of Mediabrands for Greater China. With 20 years industry experience across the Greater China region, Melinda is a modern thinker with a strong advertising and digital marketing background. Having successfully led Edelman's transformation from a PR agency into an integrated business solution partner, Melinda drew upon her prior experience redesigning the Ogilvy advertising and brand content business in model in China, in addition to previous senior leadership roles across Arcade and AKQA. Melinda specializes in cultural and organizational transformation, using her craft in the consulting space to help companies elevate their strategic relationship with clients. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for your time. Welcome to the Gerety Talks.
Well, thanks to my PR heads that I put my bio looking great. So,
So you're the CEO of Mediabrands in Greater China, which I read is a newly created position. Can you tell us about your role and what are the biggest challenges?
Well, it's a very interesting role. I just joined IPG Mediabrands for 5 months now, so it's pretty new. And according to the introduction earlier, obviously I'm not originally from the media type person. I'm in this industry 20 years plus. Woman doesn't talk about age, so plus. Right? So I was always in the creative areas, like, as you said, like AKQA, Ogilvy, Arcades. They are very creative, like the typical communication, contents, brand stuff, right? And then for my 5 months time, so yes, this is a very newly created role, because in the past we actually see China. I mean, with kind of like, it's a big region. Like we have mainland China, we also have Hong Kong and Taiwan. Both are China, but given the culture very different. So in the past, it was more like we see 3 markets running individually. But until like this year, and IPG Mediabrands decided we would like to put those 3 markets together. And simple and easy, I think the pandemic has really changed a lot. All the markets, and not only from the marketing perspective, I mean the politics, economics, and also the business, and also that is actually leading to the biggest transformation from the marketing per se. So IPG Mediabrands decided how we are going to utilize, to merge those 3 markets together, so that we could actually maximize our value, and also to utilize the talents which from those both 3 markets. We all share the same language. There's some the common area, like the cultural stuff, and some the business area could be very similar. But most importantly is that how we can utilize the market talents from the different spaces. We're talking about diversity, right? And then to drive the biggest value to our clients, and also to transform our business into the new era. And then when I say the new era, that sometimes people ask me, what is that new era? I say, honestly, I wish that I could give the answer, but I'm also searching for that. I believe not only in China, the pandemic, the COVID has entirely changed the entire market to the certain so-called uncertainty. Honestly, we were looking for a lot of our clients ask me, Melinda, can you tell me that how you predict, the next 3 years, 5 years? And I said, I couldn't, because back to 2020, I thought that would be the toughest year. And I didn't expect actually this year was the toughest year for China. Like we've gone through the lockdown, we've gone through, the people starting from the lockdown, or like, there was a lot of things that happened, and it wasn't controlled by whether it was the government or whether it was the business. It was simply controlled by, there was something out of our control by the nature, right? So there was a very much uncertainty, and I would say transformation is needed. But when we say the transformation, probably you will be say, what is my biggest challenges, right? To take this role. When I agree on taking this role, that was actually back to early this year. I started talking to IPG Mediabrands, and well, we thought, COVID has kind of gone through a stage. This year could be a brighter year. So I was like, yay, well, from the creative and to the media agencies. So the global, I had a global boss and also regional boss. Everybody was looking forward to say, they feel like, okay, Melinda, we are in a media agency, but a media agency is also facing the new transformation. Like, how could you bring in something new and from your past experience, like your understanding of brands, your creativity, and to drive something, inspirational, motivational, instead of just looking to the channels about a media buys. I mean, IPG has a beautiful foundation, right? However, they also were looking for the answers, what we're going to do with the media in the future, particularly in this complex market such as China. And as I said, Taiwan, Hong Kong, though people sharing the same language, but the culture was still very different. And I'm originally from Taiwan, which is that are giving me a very good, the understanding, which is emerged from my hometown. And also mainland China for 11 years. So, and
Okay.
also I had a lot of great friends like from Hong Kong. So I feel like, my life where I was born and where I lived and also where I understood can put them together. So my biggest, when I was hired, let's say this way, right? The two goals, basically transformation, focusing on the mentality, how we are going to get out, from, to help the people. I mean, my teammates, my colleagues, to help them to get out from our so-called comfort zone, because we understood the media in the past, but the media is changing, and also integration, which is that how we are going to switch, kind of reform the humanity. When we say integration, basically, it's a Mediabrands is still a group. So under Mediabrands that we have different agencies, and which means they do have their own P&Ls. So how we are going to integrate those, the agencies to drive the biggest power. And that was how I was hired. So two things. Yeah. And biggest challenge probably will be, 5 months time, and challenge is still ahead of me, but very enjoying so far. I would say, just basically how we transform from the mentality and how we integrate to drive the humanity, and how we push the people to believe that everything is possible to conquer the uncertainty. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a big challenge, because it's true with the pandemic. I guess nobody now wants to predict anything into the future, right?
Yeah, it's just difficult. I mean, when our clients were doing the same, I often talk to our senior clients, like the CEO, say, hey, how you guys feel? Like, for instance, I used to have a client that who sell like biggest the happy, the products in the world. Like when you drink, you feel like, oh, happiness, join us, right? And then even the COVID, like a pandemic this year, the client sales went great, was really, really good. But they're still having the business challenges, even now and for the future, because it's just hard to predict what would be the next wave to come. That means our marketing strategy and our business strategy, you have to be really, how to say, agility, right? You need to react immediately. In the past, the media is the biggest spending. So usually that client would brief you like 3 months ago or like 6 months ago when they had the really big campaign, because when we talk about media budget, was always talking about, 100 millions or at least 10, 20, millions. But now, no. Client had to split their budget into a small portions because they will not afford to say, hey, I'm going to invest a 3 months later campaign. They wanted to see that how can I do a month later campaign and how can I see the immediate result? Because, no business, no marketing budget, chicken and egg, simple and easy. Yeah.
And I read about you. Melinda has a fast-paced, modern outlook with an open and empowering leadership style proven to be successful in driving transformation and top-line growth. So talking about leadership, how do you encourage the people that work with you to give out their creative best?
I got to say, well, principle number one, recognize the people. I would say like, thank you for repeating that. And thanks to my PR head. Again, this is a great, statement for me. Give out the creative best. I probably was it's gonna be very cliche when I respond to this, because I believe that most of the leaders, they will answer the same, right? For example, like how you're going to encourage the individuality, right? How you encourage the people could be different. I mean, in the last few years that people talk about diversity, this is how I love that we talk about diversity, we talk about the gender equality, and we talk about how the people, different from the different areas. I mean, this topic probably would be much more right fit in the so-called Western countries, because you guys do have as people coming from really, really multiple different cultures. And now we're talking about, I'm in China. Seriously, I'm looking at the people who share the same colors with me, and I'm talking at the people, share the same language with me, that even the accent we are the same, right? However, the personality character-wise would be very different. So when I say my leadership, that probably would be tied to something about my style. I really love working with people. I mean, when I was a child, and my teachers and my parents always feel like I was a troublesome kid. I was terrible. Like every time when they ask me the question, I just had to answer like straight away, like just send us now, right? Just like they will say like, all right, I ask you one question. Why couldn't you just say yes or no? Or why couldn't you just give me the one single answer? And this is how I treated my team as well. I said, because not every question is with one answer. I want you guys to think out of the box. I want you guys to really tell me what to do, because I don't have all the answers. I mean, I got paid more, I got, higher role, doesn't mean that I know every answers, but the good thing, probably the better thing that I could do compared with you guys is I know how to put those puzzles together. The creativity, I believe, is not from the individual person. I always believe teamwork drive, the beautiful works, which means I encourage the team. I encourage they could be individual, having the out of box, the thinking, but I also like putting them together to drive each other to ensure everybody could actually be more powerful and to go beyond their potential. And I often talk to my team. I like talking to the different people that say this way. Like when I was in advertising when I was in advertising agency, probably the most of the people I could talk to would be, creative, or let's say you guys, right? But I actually spent significant time to talk to my HR, even talk to my finance, not because of business or talent per se. I like chit-chat talking with them. And sometimes when I thought about one idea, I even talk to operational person, and I built a really good relationship with my reception as well. Because I always feel like, act on the good ideas could be from everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that is something, from the routine basis, but more important is like, let's say, give out the best creative, creative doesn't necessarily to be the ideas, because it could be adapted in terms of operations, in terms of the way of working, in terms of the business model. And I think that in the end of the day, ultimately, very important is how we can recognize success, right? And when we want to say, as the leaders, and, for example, you mentioned like my style is really like to proven the successful in driving the transformation and top line, growth. And got to say, it's not me doing that. It wasn't only me doing that. I did that with my team together. And how could I encourage my team to do that with me, to drive their creative the best? I recognize their success. I recognize the outstanding people. I personally do not believe everybody the same. And I do feel like sometimes, the health internal competition, it's needed, because you wanted the people to be seen. You wanted the people to feel like when I vocally talk out and about my ideas and about how I can make things better, I could be recognized. And so that is how I feel. Well, kind of answer the question, like both the transformation and also top line health. But most important is give out is you see, you act, and you recognize, and you encourage. And it's just like a healthy ecosystem to me. Yeah.
And what are the most significant changes happening in the region's advertising scene at the moment? What do you think?
Well, kind of repeat again. I think no one can deny that, okay, the biggest digital marketing trend at this in China, it's a crazy like online video advertising, and no doubts, with the no doubt like the digital growth basically, right? Like our doing became a famous TikTok. Do you play TikTok? I mean,
I know.
well, I don't either, but seriously, like the people around me, everybody play TikTok. I mean, digital videos, influencers, the social contents, there was no doubts that would be the so-called, happening in the region everywhere. However, let's say the significant changes, but I would say there are also some natural changes when the media environment is getting more and more pragmatic. I mean, when the people say, hey, Melinda, talk about the media changing, I said, well, you already knew because you play the videos and you search it through the videos and you purchase online, and then you believe in that, the influencers' opinions, to make you to buy something. I did. Seriously, I had tons of the garbage, in my closet because I feel like, oh my God, this influencer looks so amazing. I'll be looking like her. So yes, I kept buying stuff on them. And then like gaming purchase, right? But they are all tactics. I think, I think the most impact is actually, we knew the tactics, the changing was there, but we are the agency people. So we shouldn't only know or tell the client, which is what everybody has been known. What we should do is we actually need to know those changes will lead to what, right? So I would say our next watch out, certainly, to the advertising, this industry, in my opinion, it's no doubt performance. When I say performance, it's simple because of pandemic again. The supply chain of the products has been disrupted. The national, international business is actually facing huge loss. And as we said, uncertainty, cash flow became the issue. Right. And then, people out of the job became the issue. So why I say performance, basically, performance marketing, let's say the ROI result driven marketing. It has been talked about, people talk about this for years. I would say that, since 3 years ago, 5 years ago, people already talk about that. But people don't really think, they didn't really act that crazily to change the so-called marketing investment or the media investment. But it started happening now. In my last 5 months from the media agency, even though before I joined the media, the IPG Mediabrands, I would say since the end of last year, when I was in advertising, the advertising that we do the creative contents, right? The creative contents, I can't really promise you about conversion, but client did ask. Clients started asking, say, what did you, predict that how the consumers is going to react after they receive the contents? They want a conversion. They want to ensure, in the past, it was more like, when people see the contents, the advertising, they feel like, I fall in love with this brand. No, they actually feel like, I want consumers to see that. I feel like, I fall in love with you. I want to marry you. And which means that I'm going to buy your products. At this, I'm going to online website and add it into my shopping cart. So there's a conversion. So I think that to us as the media agency, and as I said, integration, transformation, which is that how we are going to connect, from the content per se, how we are going to start from the objectives, and then, to help the client to generate every leads and take them to the end, which is that to guarantee the performance and to guarantee the business results. It's actually a big wave now that from our clients asking and from the agencies, to actually strive for. This is certainly a new change, a new normal for us. And it's, again, challenging, but yeah, it's sort of like have to.
And what projects are you working on that you can tell us about, if any?
Okay, I've got to say, it's a difficult question. Just like I have different child, I have different children, and I can't just talk about one, because if I do, and the other kids will be feeling like mommy is not there, right? So probably I will just pick up the couple of the clients I think very interesting and kind of the different, right? So we have the different clients, like we have Lego, we have like government client, for example, we have a tourism Australia, and we have a Hanko, we have like MSD, to talk about a pharmacy. So those clients, they are actually are working on the different type of the things. Like recently, we're just officially launching the projects for tourism Australia. The tourism is actually a very challenging industry now. So that business has been like, the project has been postponed from July, from May to July, and then finally to December. So this project was pretty excited because, to us, probably because project hasn't really officially, go live now. So I could only talk about, very certain stuff. To our team, work on this project, even me that I engage with the client very directly, not into the project executions. But why I wanted to mention this particular project, because when our team work on this project, it's also kind of like inspired us to say, hey, the brighter future is tomorrow. Like, because China is still having the quarantine policy. That means actually, go overseas. It's something that not really like, kind of practical to us at the moment. But working on this project and also presenting and promoting, and then also there was some fantastic stuff that Australia government has done, and cooperation partnership with the China hotels, some of the hotels, and also some like the partnership programs in place in China. That was just feeling like it's you actually were not only working on a project itself, you are actually feeling like you're part of that. And that is something I feel very cool about it. Yeah.
And what campaigns have you been most excited about lately? Is there something that struck your attention?
Well, I could only talk about IPG Mediabrands. I can't really talk about the past, otherwise my boss wouldn't be really happy with me on my team. All right. Actually, there were two projects. I think the two campaigns we could talk about, and pretty decent, just summary and very top level. Like, I would say that my last few months, and it kind of like blew my mind away, because I had a very cliche image about the media, because in the past, when I was the creative agency, creative agency was the leading idea agency, right? It was always like, hey, this is a fantastic idea that can find us, the media agency, that you guys just take this idea and you execute, and you go by the media channels and you amplify it, right? But I participated, behind the thing, and then in the couple of the projects that I seen from the my team's initiative, it was brilliant. Like, for example, there was Lego is always it's our global client and also the regional local client as well. Lego client is really like brave. They actually encouraged us to think, like as I said earlier, out of box. They always welcome. They feel like, I don't want you guys to see us as the media, you guys see yourself as the media agency. I want you guys to act like you are the creative agency. So like there were a couple of the campaigns, for example, there were campaigns like talking about, the spaceship, and there was some campaigns talking about the simple, it's just like we're talking about a family reunion. But there was a campaign pretty cool, was like, we did we really provided like integrated service. It's like it's launched in the Child Day, so Children's Day this year, which is in China. I don't know how many people understood China. Like, China is a very stressful environment for kids, honestly. Like, if we were talk, because one child policy, everybody always expected, the children should be like, just focus on your study, your homework. So sometimes play, it's kind of like wasting of the time. The parents actually will having that kind of the judgment from that society. But for the Children's Day, we wanted to ensure that, no, actually play itself shouldn't be judged. There's nothing so-called, hey, this is the wasting of the time of the play, or this is a good play. Child, when we talk about creativity, right? Child has unlimited creativity, unlimited imagination, and Lego is the brand to encourage that. So during the Child Day, we actually opened up that topic. And the good thing is, because given China is become more like, how to say, it's the country actually embraced all the Western culture in already. So we actually wanted to bring this cultural stuff into China more. And then we started the conversation talking about all the play just fine. And we wanted the parents to be part of the place because we are very important pillars to those kids in the future. So basically, and then we started, the conversation also engaged into like, what is the right way to play? And then, what is the methodology you can play? And then what you can influence and teach the other people's play. So basically, our job was kind of changed because we were not only the media agency saying, hey, we wanted to buy the media channels to hero this. We actually started, the content creation and also identify the right media customer targeted the media and hosting all the conversations. So there was one of the campaign, but like there was another campaign that when my team shared with me, I was like, well, it's very unusual because like, okay, when we talk about, cervical cancer, it's always something very serious, but it's actually something that Chinese people that we don't really aware when we were young. Honestly, even me, I'm like, middle age, 40 plus. And I wasn't really aware of this is something that I need to pay attention because while we were younger, the education, this type of the education, HPV, the vaccine wasn't like, although government kept talking about that, but still we were just like, oh, it's nothing really like got our attention when we were kids. So we actually MSD started noticing this, like we believe that we needed to actually educate the people, particularly women, when they were much more younger age. So how we do that? You could imagine like the pharmacy, the clients always just using very stressful and serious talk, right? But we don't. We actually we chose an IP, and it's a comic book, a very famous comic series in China. So we actually, there was a romance and there was like princess, there was like heroes. We actually chose a comic book to work with them. And then there was like the online videos, and there was a comic series on WeChat, and there was like Weibo topics. So basically we use this IP partnership and to started with this so-called, cervical cancer, HPV, the vaccine's importance. So that was something we actually felt very cool. And the client was actually very happy, feel like, oh, when every time we talk about something related to the cancer, you always need to be serious. No, it wasn't. We wanted to ensure, as long as that you could prevent that at your early stage, you could actually no worries about it. So just using those two cases, and there were tons of the campaigns, I was like very excited about why those kind of, it just, you could, if you look into that, we actually think from the different perspectives. And the more important is we started with the audience's insight. In the past, when we look into the media, right, and then people look at, oh, this is the most popular media channel we wanted to buy. But no, we talk about creativity. We actually feel like, no, we started with the consumer's insight. Who is your target audiences? What could trigger them? What could generate their biggest attention? Maybe it's not the best or the most popular media, but as long as the consumers are interested in that, and we could make the creativity work and to make it as a buzz, then that would be the good media. So that is the campaigns, I think, pretty good examples to share.
And when is a Child's Day in China? In
Sorry?
which month? When is Child's Day?
June 1st.
Okay.
June 1st.
In Argentina is in August.
That is the thing.
The first Sunday of August, and even if I'm not a child anymore, my mom always says, "Hey, happy Child's Day," which is cool.
Yeah, when I was like, because the Children's Day is very different, even though just within our like China, this big region, 3 markets is still very different. But Children's Day is very important in China though, because one child policy, you just feel like. And then we even like most of the companies in China now, they have like Child's Day and Children's Day that you can actually take your kids and to see your parents, working here and engage with them, the kind of activity. It became a really, really like a routine now. At least from the different agencies I've been worked with, we all had that kind of traditions here. So yeah, let your kid to see that how much your mom working really, really hard. That is how I pay your school.
And talking about work, how was your path to working in advertising? Did you always know you wanted to do that, or?
Well, I would say I would say that this way. I wasn't okay, but I started as a designer. So I started as a designer. I started as a creative, and then a couple of years later, I feel like I knew where's my ceiling. I always knew where was my bottleneck. So back then, I feel like I had a lot of thinking, but I couldn't visualize them, and I couldn't really express them on the paper. So, and I turned my career to be a bridge, right? Because I started as a creative, so I knew the language. And then if I became an account business person, that basically I could be a really good messenger. I could translate from the creative's language to the business language, and I could translate, from the business language to make our creative to understand more. And I would say that back then it was more like making a leaf job. Let's just say this way, because graduated from designer, you feel like that was the job you earn money, that is the job you pay your rent, and that was the job you just don't know, you didn't know that what you could do back then. But years later, I would say this way, and again back to probably as very earlier mentioned, I like working with people. I mean, sometimes people ask me, what was your passion about? I say, of course, I'm passionate about, when I see a really good works, and I would like punch to my head and feel like, oh my God, why couldn't think about that, but I knew those works that were done by people. And that inspired me, because I'm still, I very enjoy, if you want to say, ask me, said, is that always I wanted to do? I think I wouldn't say that was always I wanted to do. I've gone through different journeys, the different phases, right? But the people make me to feel every journey, I feel I saw something new. And I felt motivated by the partners that surrounded me. I was surrounded by the really amazing partners, the creatives, the strategy, the colleagues, even clients, really. And that made me to feel like now probably the question would be, what do you feel like doing in your next 20 years? And my answer would be, apart from this, I don't know what I wanted to do.
Well,
So
that's good. Yeah, to be always motivated with what you're doing is great. Okay, well, thank you so much for all these great answers for all my questions, and for sharing with us what you do in your job. And best of luck with all the projects coming.
yes, and I believe in the young people's world. I actually feel, when I've been dealing with a lot of, spending a lot of time with the different young generations. So I said, and given, more and more, a great awards festival just like ours, that actually encouraging our new generations, creating more impactful, meaningful stuff. And there's nothing about big or small, but I do think that is where we are. And thank you. I'm very, very pleased to join today's talk.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Great. Bye.